Okay, we did the assessment of development results for China, and what the ADRs, the assessment of development results, do is to essentially focus on UNDP's contribution to development results of that country. And it was an assessment of UNDP's contribution over the past 5 years, but also with the objective of commenting on the positioning of UNDP in China. How effective has it been? How credible has UNDP been? How relevant has UNDP been? So it's both a backward-looking exercise as well as a forward-looking exercise. And also in terms of the background of China, this is the first time that the ADR has been done twice. The first ADR was done in 2005. Given the significant changes that have taken place in China, major transformations have taken place over the last 5 years. While growth has been phenomenal, the country is also facing a number of development challenges, starting with internal migration, urbanization, climate change. China is very keen to move towards becoming a low-carbon economy, and so on and so forth. They're in the preparatory phase of their 12th five-year plan, and so the ADR is very timely in the sense that it draws on the analysis that's being undertaken for the 12th five-year plan, and also prepares for the next country program and the UNDAF.
Now, recognizing the need for national ownership in evaluation, the Evaluation Office engaged a Chinese national institution to carry this evaluation. Could you tell us more about this experience?
Yes, I think UNDP Evaluation Office identified NCSTE, the National Center for Science and Technology Evaluation, as the agency that would carry out the evaluation. NCSTE is an extremely credible organization in China that has the expertise and the experience of carrying out evaluations. We saw several advantages of partnering with NCSTE. The traditional model for an ADR has been to fly in 3 international experts who spend about 2 weeks in the field and try to put together the report. But in this case, because there was a local team, first we had 7 full-time experts across the different practice areas. There were 5 part-time consultants also assisting in the evaluation. The question of language was very important. They were able to access both documents in English as well as documents in Chinese. And as you know, most of the internal documents of the government in terms of the minutes, etc., are maintained in the Chinese language, which an international team would not have had access to. It also facilitated a lot of the discussions and communications in the focused group meetings, because there are certain words that we use in English which often do not have a Chinese equivalent, and so the local team was able to convey what we were trying to say and get very good insights from the participants and the stakeholders. The field visits were also particularly useful because as a foreigner, when you go there, you go with an interpreter and so on and so forth. And finally, I would say that in terms of both the costs, the whole process of field visits, group discussions, interviews, etc., was spread over 6 to 7 months. Whereas when you engage a team of international consultants, then you get barely about 30 days of their time each. So it was a really intensive process which enriched both the content and the quality of analysis.
Thank you. And what do you think are the benefits of this approach? And do you think it can be replicated, and under which conditions?
Yeah, I did mention all the advantages of using a local team, but at the same time, I think one should be careful to ensure that it is not just the competencies, but also the ability of the group to be honest and to be critical. Dr. Mehboob ul Haq used to say that in development, it is not wisdom, but honesty, which is the main thing. So you need to get a group that is credible, which can be critical of the government, say things when they're not working, be critical of the UNDP as well, recognizing that they are working in the same country and with colleagues and so on and so forth. So I think once you can establish that kind of independence of the local team and the ability to be objective and critical and honest, then of course this will be a great model. In the China one, my own role was that initially of being an external advisor. to the project, but the Chinese were very keen that I join them as a co-team leader. So I was a co-team leader, which gave me much greater ability to engage with the local team as well.
Could you share with us the main recommendations and lessons learned for UNDP?
Well, one of the main findings of the ADR, the assessment of China, was that the UNDP's country program is extremely relevant and aligned well with the national development priorities of the country. And the country program has definitely added value in all the practice areas that it engages in China. Compared to the previous ADR, what was noticed is that there were a large number of small scattered projects all over the country, which were successful in a narrow sense of having achieved what the project was supposed to achieve. But then when you added up these individual projects, there was very little national impact on China. And that feature of the old portfolio had been corrected this time. In the period 2005-2010, UNDP in China concentrated on fewer projects, very well-selected projects that were able to draw lessons from what is happening in the community and at the local levels for discussion at the upstream level with policymakers and so on and so forth. So I think that was a very striking feature. There's also very strong government ownership of these programs in China, which are implemented through the national execution, so the government, we found, was greatly supportive of the UNDP interventions. Having said this, of course, the ADR also pointed to certain limitations, especially in terms of the capacity within UNDP itself, not just at the country level, but in the regional service centers and in headquarters, to be able to make available or bring to China the best expertise in a variety of fields and challenges, development challenges that China faces. And I think that is where UNDP has to put considerable effort in the future, that in these rapidly developing or growing middle-income countries, what should be the actual role of UNDP, what is the expertise that they should have in order to be relevant to these countries. So that is the main challenge, I would argue, which we highlight in the report. Also, it is important to point out that China, while parts of China are growing very rapidly and enjoying the benefits of growth, inequalities are also widening, and that there are regions which are, if you leave aside Beijing and Shanghai and a few of these big cities, there are also rural areas and remote areas where there are large numbers of underserved and unserved populations. So UNDP does have another important role in terms of drawing attention of the government and resources into these areas.